parents and grandparents want to help their family onto the property ladder. Often they gift the money for a deposit or help with the deposit. A lot of our customers that we've spoken to want to help their kids, but they're concerned about asset protection. So, i.e., leakage of the gift, particularly if they partner up with others and that doesn't work out, but also they have other children to help. And it shouldn't be at the expense of their retirement. So it's an investment for them. We really, truly have an affordability crisis on a scale that's not quite as the same as before, plus a very intensely competitive market and a housing supply issue as well. I also feel there are now baby boomers and a more aged population that's sitting on property wealth because of that huge increase in prices, that there is going to be a significant intergenerational transfer of wealth to younger generations in property, but it's going to take some time for that to happen. I did see statistics on this, that the average age that a person will inherit property wealth is 52. So it's still too late in terms of buying a house to have a family, for example.
Older women 55 and over, fastest growing group facing homelessness. I believe that between 2011 and 2021, the increase in women over 55 experiencing homelessness increased by over 40%.
The stats out there, as you know, there are a lot of elderly women with insufficient super, insufficient assets for retirement, don't own their own home, perhaps post-divorce or whatever. We see this as an arrangement that can work, repooling funds and increasing borrowing power and coming together and living together.
What does it take to be a financially empowered woman? And what can financially empowered women do together to change the world? A shocking statistic is that around 400,000 women in Australia are at risk of homelessness. And the cause of this is the lack of education about how to build a financial foundation, starting even before we first enter the workforce and well into our retirement years. My name's Dion Payne, and I'm the founder of the Financially Empowered Women podcast. I'm passionate about ending homelessness, and as part of that passion, I chose to look at the systemic barriers that are causing homelessness for women in the first place. The Financially Empowered Women podcast is designed to bring you the best experts from around the world to increase your financial know-how and give you practical and women-specific tips to overcome the challenges you might be facing, such as how to negotiate a better salary, demystifying super, or how to navigate a separation and ensure the assets are distributed fairly. My role is to provide you with the best information out there to change your trajectory and become a financially empowered woman, because you deserve it, and the world needs you more than ever to own your worth and help others to do the same.
Hi everyone, and welcome to the Financially Empowered Women podcast. My name's Dion Payne, and today I'm with Lynda Coker. Now let me tell you a little bit about Lynda. Lynda is an angel investor, mentor, and a female founder advocate, a 2021 Edna Ryan Award recipient, Innovation and Investment Committee member, named in the Global 2021, 2020 and 2019 Women in FinTech Power List, winner of the 2018 Women in Finance Award, Mentor of the Year, and now Lynda is the CEO and co-founder of Co-operty, helping people co-own property in a simpler and faster way. Welcome, Lynda.
Thank you, Dion. Thank you for that introduction.
My pleasure. Look, what I got from from all of the work that you've done over this last few years and the awards that you've received is that there's something very special about what you have done and what you are doing. So I'd love to hear, how did you get here? Like, what was your journey initially?
Well, I like helping others, really. I knew no one in the startup ecosystem when I came back from the UK. So I came back from the UK to Australia I came back in 2012. I was working for EY at the time, but then I went back over for a year in 2015. Quit EY, wasn't sure what I wanted to do next from a career perspective. I just knew I wanted to do something completely different. My whole background had been in financial services, transaction advisory. I'm a chartered accountant by background. And I did some study and I started immersing myself in the fintech ecosystem in Sydney. It was really starting to take off then. Stone and Chalk, the first fintech incubator, had been set up. I knew the chair. He was like, come on down, Lynda, and, talk to people. And it really was just an immersion from meeting other founders and really sort of also figuring out kind of for myself what I wanted to do and could do, and connecting to people alongside the ecosystem maturing, that I guess I managed to meet a lot of people along the way, do a lot of variety of things. Australia is very small as well. And it was, I always say it was serendipity by design, if you like. So, I guess like some of those things that you just mentioned have really just come out of working with people and helping others and connecting others, which I'm very passionate about, which is also, I guess, the basis of Co-operty, my business at the moment with my co-founder. We are very much about helping people co-buy property together, as you said, because there is a housing affordability problem in this country. We want to make co-ownership easier and make it more flexible for many family situations and life scenarios.
Yeah, cool. So for anybody listening that's not quite sure about how co-ownership works, can you just talk a little bit about that?
Yes, so co-ownership is obviously co-buying a residential property together where you're on title for your share. It's not something new. People can do this today. Most married couples co-buy together 50-50. We're not necessarily targeting them. We're targeting first home buyers who are open to co-buying, move from co-renting to co-owning, and also mum and dad or grandparents that are helping children co-buy. And essentially our product and platform facilitates the transaction and puts the legals in place that people often forget to put in place. We've plugged in conveyancing, etc., and working with lenders and mortgage brokers to improve access to finance for those scenarios. We want to make it easy. We want to make co-ownership easy for people. And many of our customers we've spoken to want to do this, but they're just very unsure, particularly if you're a first home buyer. Often they say, what is a conveyancer? Make it really easy for them to do this.
100%. So let's imagine that there's a couple of young people that are thinking about, or let's say a group of 5 young people that are thinking about buying something. Now, one of the things that I keep hearing is how difficult it is for young people to get onto the property ladder, and all of these people are lamenting and saying, "Oh, well, we're never gonna make it. It's too hard." So, in this instance, what you're saying is that young people, anybody really, but let's focus on young people, they could come together and co-purchase a property. So how could that work?
Yes. So the problem is because property prices, right? They're very high, and saving that deposit, rents are high, living costs are high. I think first home buyers feel it's just out of reach for them to save that deposit and get a loan by themselves. So in order to co-buy, obviously you're not owning the whole house yourself. You're splitting it in whichever way you want. We facilitate that. But you're sharing mortgage repayments. So it is cheaper. And ultimately, they live together anyway. So we don't provide financing, to be clear, but we work with brokers and lenders that can arrange finance for co-ownership scenarios. We also work with property developers and buyer's agents should people need them. So, because often getting the finance is really difficult to start with, but then finding the property can also be hard because we do have a supply issue in this country as well. Many people want to live in inner metropolitan areas and it's difficult to find. But again, to be clear, we don't do that. We work with others to do that. What we do is, so we don't matchmake people. We expect people to have found each other. This works if you're going to live in the property or for investment as well. To be clear, we're agnostic. So you can co-buy, rent it out, go get a property manager or Airbnb it. We don't mind. You can also co-buy and live together in the property. You could also, between you, do different things. So our legals sort of are clear about that too. So, one of you could be buying for investment and one of you could be living in the property. So, but essentially you find each other, you find the property, you come to us, or you can come to us earlier and we can work with partners to help you do both of those things. And then we do everything else. So we authenticate you, the property, provide a valuation, plug in the conveyancing, and platform deliver a co-ownership agreement. And you pay a one-off fee to us for that, which is collected on settlement.
Perfect. And so you mentioned that, this is something for mum and dads that they could also get involved and help their children onto the property ladder. And I saw a newspaper article the other day, just the headline, "The bank of mum and dad is running out." What are some of the challenges that you're seeing with the bank of mum and dad, and why might this co-ownership option be a better alternative for that?
Yes. So I think the bank of mum and dad is under pressure. Obviously, parents and grandparents want to help their family onto the property ladder. Often they gift the money for a deposit or help with the deposit. Everyone has a different sort of financial situation, but a lot of our customers that we've spoken to want to help their kids, but they're concerned about asset protection. So, i.e., leakage of the gift, particularly if they partner up with others and that doesn't work out, but also they have other children to help. And it shouldn't be at the expense of their retirement. So it's an investment for them. So yes, we've had a lot of scenarios where parents and grandparents have wanted to do it this way. And also with the lenders we work with, there's a very limited security guarantee that's put in place. Actually, sometimes lenders will require parents to put their own house up as security. Yeah, in this scenario, the security is less because their fraction is considered security. So, so not only do you get asset protection, less security put up, but your kids also borrow less because they're not borrowing the whole amount and can buy sooner. So there's a couple of different benefits there for everyone. But we do encourage people to get independent financial advice that it suits them given their other obligations. But it's interesting. We certainly didn't start with the Bank of Mum and Dad being our primary target market. We were really focusing on, cohorts of friends and first home buyers, but we've had a very strong response from the Bank of Mum and Dad because it is a real problem. I think they're I don't know the exact numbers at this point in time, but they're a large lender in this market, unofficially.
Yeah. And what I think, please correct me if this is not the case, but when you have the co-ownership, we're talking about tenants in common, and there's a couple of ways that you can buy property, either as joint tenants or tenants in common, and Co-operty focuses on the second one. So can you just explain the difference a little bit there for the audience to be able to get that distinction?
Yeah, no, of course. And I think there's a lot of education required on this in the property market as well. So to co-buy property, there are two ways. You can buy as joint tenants, where most married couples buy property together in this way, where you jointly own the asset together. The asset shares need to be equal though. So 50-50, or if there's three of you, a third. With tenants in common, you can have differing fractional ownership. So, often in a scenario of two or three people buying together, often someone puts more money in as a deposit, or, they're contributing more. So it allows it to be more reflective of that. So i.e. it can be 60-40 or 70-30 or, so one, we have used Tenants in Common from that perspective. So it allows flexibility in ownership shares and for that to be different. And the other key difference is that Tenants in Common allows you to pass the asset on to someone else other than your co-owners. Either if something happens to you, you can bequeath it in your will to someone else. So if parents are helping kids, it can go to perhaps children you haven't helped yet, or and there's no CGT and there's no inheritance tax. So it's kind of helping your children earlier rather than waiting for you to die. Sorry to be morbid, but equally to the extent you can sell your share to someone else, that the Tenants in Common does allow you to do that.
If you've been watching the news lately, it's easy to feel a sense of despair between power-hungry global leaders and absolute chaos and division. It can feel like things are spiraling out of control. It's easy to feel overwhelmed and just to have a sense of powerlessness. But there is a way to push back. We can stop looking at what they are doing and start looking at what we can do. At Women for Homes, we firmly believe that where we put our money is making a choice for the kind of world that we want to live in. Our mission is powerful: to mobilise 1 million women to invest $5,000 to end homelessness by 2030 whilst being financially empowered along the way. It's practical, it's tangible, it's something that we can do now, and it's something that we can do to take our power back. Join us at www.womenforhomes.com. That's women4homes.com. I could see that there could be a situation where perhaps, just thinking this through, so mum and dad buy a share in a property for their child. The child couples up with somebody else, and mum and dad are able to then sell their share to the partner, which means that they can release their money. Hopefully they've bought really well, so it's gone up in value, so they might be able to, to get a return on that as well, even though that's probably not why they went in to help their loved one in the first place. But then that's how it can come back and help other family members as well, right?
Yes. To be clear, and also this concept is sort of, we don't dictate tax settings. The tax settings that are applicable here are per per what your purpose is for co-owning the property. So parents will not be living in the property, you would think, that they bought for their co-bought with their child. So to be clear, that does attract CGT. But then we feel they've made something. They're only paying CGT if they've made something. I guess for the person coming in, they're going to pay stamp duty on, but they would anyway. Do you know what I mean? So it's just all proportional. And for the child, if it's their primary place of residence, then it is CGT free to them. So the tax settings work as they work already. It's just sort of on a co-owned basis, depending on the purpose of your co-ownership.
Yeah, and then, the disclaimer with any of this is seek independent financial advice, because your circumstances and your tax situation is going to be different.
Yes, and we're not tax advisors, and our product is not sort of, speaking to tax. The tax settings work as they work anyway, but we just always encourage people to get financial advice anyway, because everyone's financial position is different. People have different expectations. For example, parents have different expectations and goals in retirement. Everyone's family situation is different as well. So we encourage people to seek advice. And really, the premise of our product is putting the legals in place and having an independent agreement in place to contemplate, people's expectations of the arrangement, to help govern the arrangement. Everyone's clear about rights and obligations, what happens if there's a dispute, what happens if someone wants out. And really, when we started building, we saw that, two things happened. One, people just didn't put this in place. And then when things go awry, there's nothing there to protect people. And secondly, if they did put it in place, it can be costly. You've got to find a lawyer, and that can be expensive. So we really wanted a technology platform to really not just put that in place, but also piece together the elements of the transaction to just make it easy. Because as I said, find each other, find the property, come to us, and we'll do everything else. And we specifically work with brokers and lenders that specialize in co-ownership scenarios to improve your access to finance, because you are sharing mortgage repayments. So it is cheaper for you. And also you're pooling funds, in terms of coming up with a deposit as well.
Yeah. And I like how you segued into the financial products. It seems to me that this is still quite niche. So how many lenders are out there, and how do they feel about this, and why haven't more lenders jumped on board?
Because, well, a couple of reasons. And we're actually finding that conditions are changing, and lenders are actually starting to be a lot more flexible because there is competition in the mortgage market now. It's very intensely competitive. And also, supply is limited too. So, they want to increase volume. Our product actually brings forward transactions for brokers and lenders. So the alternative is, okay, wait longer for someone to save the deposit by themselves, where actually they could do it today, right? So it's bringing forward transactions as well as increasing volume. And I think, to answer your question, historically, so tenants in common is not new. I just don't feel it's been well understood and not necessarily well marketed. And also the lenders have been very conservative with their products and very rigid in, so it hasn't necessarily been easy to do this in terms of their requirements. And historically, they haven't needed to move. Do you know what I mean? Whereas now we're actually in a scenario where we really, truly have an affordability crisis on a scale that's not quite as the same as before, plus a very intensely competitive market, and a housing supply issue as well. So, and also I feel it's interesting, the dynamics. Like, I also feel there are now baby boomers and a more aged population that's sitting on property wealth because of that huge increase in prices, that there is going to be a significant intergenerational transfer of wealth to younger generations in property, but it's going to take some time for that to happen. And I did see statistics on this, that the average age that a person will inherit property wealth is 52, so it's still too late in terms of buying a house to have a family, for example. But equally, I feel this concept and structure helps people get on the ladder, even from an investment perspective, just to get on, co-buy and rent it out. Do you know what I mean? But equally, you can, if it works and you find the right property, you can do this to live in it too. So it's really up to you. I guess we're trying to find or provide an alternative solution. It's not for everyone, everyone. The crisis is really big, that I think there needs to be a number of solutions in the toolkit, and we feel that there's genuine appetite to co-own. YouGov provided research on this too. Nearly 47% of people across demographics or age ranges are open to co-buying in order to better afford.
Brilliant.
So let's make it easy for them.
Yeah. Oh, that's so good. And I do think that we are seeing more of a sharing economy. I mean, Uber and Airbnb and all of that. So it absolutely makes sense to me that people are buying together to make it affordable so that everybody gets the benefits and sort of that rising tide lifts all boats kind of thing. I have a bit of a passion for this area, and I'd love for you to speak to it. Older women 55 and over, fastest growing group facing homelessness. I believe that between 2011 and 2021, the increase in women over 55 experiencing homelessness increased by over 40%. Now, you mentioned something before which really just excited me so much about how older women are coming together to buy properties themselves. What are you seeing?
Yes. So we've had some customers that are elderly women seeking to co-buy together, different sets of circumstances, but I think to summarize, it's largely been a decision they want to do this because of affordability, but also companionship. They want to live together anyway. So they're very open to co-buying. You might have one person that is better able to afford than the other. And the stats out there, as there are a lot of elderly women with insufficient insufficient assets for retirement, don't own their own home, perhaps post-divorce or whatever. We see this as an arrangement that can work, repooling funds and increasing borrowing power and coming together and living together. There's a number of examples too of sort of not just two or more people coming together to co-buy a house. You're seeing sort of community, sort of communal living, co-living, which I know you also focus on, where people have sort of built or co-bought several properties together, like in an enclave, or actually a house that has been refitted into, self-contained dwellings. And we're actually talking to and seeing a lot of developers now remodeling houses in that way, because not just the elderly, but particularly the elderly, they want to live in a communal setting, with family or with their friends.
Yeah. Which is really beautiful. And you touched to the work that we're doing. And one of our projects is to renovate an existing house, a 4-bedroom, 2-bathroom home, and convert it to a 6-bedroom, 6-bathroom home, creating something that's really beautiful, affordable and dignified, so that older women can live there and sort of age gracefully there in companionship, as well as having that sense of this is mine, and I can put pictures on the wall, and I can have my possessions with me and just feel really safe and secure. So I'm very excited about what it is that we're doing, and in that we are coming together as tenants in common to purchase these properties, and it's such a fun and empowering way to do this. Whenever I speak to the women that are coming in as co-owners, they're so happy that they can be part of the solution, but also it's an opportunity for them to create wealth through property. And in some cases, some people haven't even bought properties, and so they haven't been on the property ladder, and they're excited that now that they can. So not in the way that they had thought, I'm going to buy a home, because that's not what this is, but it's coming together to buy something and to benefit from that.
Absolutely. And I mean, tenants in common, it's on title ownership. You own your share. You can live in the house if you want. You can rent it out if you want. Do you know what I mean? It's not like you're buying bricks or, units or, things in a trust. I mean, you're not sort of buying something where you don't have those management rights.
Absolutely. And I'm guessing, going back to what you said, it all comes down to the tenants in common agreement and having that structured really well.
Clear about not just the fractional ownership, but also all the rights and obligations that each co-owner has, and it can reflect sort of expectations for the arrangement. We don't see it as a set and forget either. We see that it's a living arrangement that people's goals and situations change, so it can be varied. It can be varied to contemplate changes, with agreement of the other parties. So yes, we see it as a living document that can be varied to suit people's change in circumstance.
Perfect. Now, Lynda, we're almost at the end of the interview. One thing I want to say is that what I love about property is that it is very, very creative. And so sometimes we think, this is the way it's got to be. And actually that's not the case, because there's always a solution. It's just that maybe we don't know about it yet. So for me, what you're doing with Co-operty and helping make co-ownership really easy and simple for people is exciting. So for anybody else that's feeling really inspired, how can they get hold of you?
Oh, we're very easy to reach. So just for clarification, it's co-operty. So, but you can find us on, Facebook, Instagram, LinkedIn, and also feel free to reach out to me directly. So Lynda, Lynda @co-operty.com. We're very open to talking to people and helping them on their property journey. And as you said, property is really the wealth creation vehicle of this country, and we want to help people own their own home. It's the great Australian dream, and we see it as a genuine way to start that journey.
Wonderful. Thank you for being a guest on the show, Lynda.
Oh, thank you very much for having me, Dion, and it's lovely to chat to you too and hear more about what you're doing, and also happy to support you in any way that we can too.
Thank you.
Thanks, Dion.